Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here. And my guest today is someone I met at Vogue Knitting Live recently. And I was so excited when Jonna Helin, who is the CEO and creative director of, how do you pronounce the magazine? Because I say Laine, but I've heard it's the wrong way to say it.
Every way is a good way, but actually we pronounce it Laine.
Laine.
And the meaning, it's also a Finnish word. We are very aware that it's a French word meaning wool. But in Finnish, it means a wave. And that's why we picked the name. It has a meaning that has something to do with knitting. And then it's a Finnish word which kind of sounds really beautiful in Finnish. So that's why we picked the name. And yeah, we said it, we pronounce it Laine. And we often get these questions, and sometimes, especially from people from the US and Canada. So they keep asking that, okay, do you pronounce your name like Laine? Because my husband says that in NHL there is this Patrick Laine, and so for some people who are interested in hockey, they know how to pronounce it in a Finnish way.
Well, welcome to my channel, Jonna. I really so happy that you be making it happen.
This is an honor. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into the world of knitting before you started the magazine and this whole production company. What was your knitting story?
Of course, a long one, once again. So I think I learned how to knit before I went to school. So at the age of 5, probably. And my mom knits a lot, still does. And both of my grandmothers were, knitters, crafters. So I've kind of grown into this world of crafting. And I've seen my parents constantly doing something with their hands. I've seen my grandparents do the same thing. I grew up in a rather poor family, and it was a way, making our things, making our clothes ourselves was a cheaper way than to go to the shop and buy them. So that is how I learned to knit. And I liked knitting, and I liked crocheting everything. I sewed my clothes, but I wasn't crazy about knitting. I remember that I did something every year, like a couple of hats and a sweater, something like that. And then I think I was something like 20 years old when I realized this world of yarn, because basically in Finland, we have this one yarn brand, which we can go and buy from the supermarkets. And that was the only, yarn I had used. And then I went to study to another city, and I passed through a yarn shop, and then, bought a skein of yarn. And it was a life-changing experience because the yarn felt so different to those that were familiar to me beforehand. And I was like, how in the world can knitting feel this good, that this yarn feels fantastic on my fingers, it's nice to knit with. And that's when I became obsessed. And ever since, I think knitting for me, I think it's like a constant adventure. You never know what the world brings to you. There's always new yarns coming, always new needles. It's exciting to, try to find the perfect yarn needle combination, perfect gauge for something. And yeah, and then maybe something like, I don't remember the years so precisely, but let's say 12 years ago. So I had a massive burnout. I have had a few burnouts in my life. And back then I used to work in a big magazine. So I've been a journalist for 25 years already. And I was around 30 years old, and I'd been in the business for a very long time already. And then this burnout came, and I started to question myself that, is this really something that I want to do for the rest of my life? That can I continue like this? And then I just quit my job. I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have any savings, nothing. I just decided that, okay, I'm going to quit my job. And I trusted that, okay, I can always freelance. I can always write articles to magazines and newspapers. And we moved back then we lived in Helsinki, and we moved back home to Tampere. And I think it took a few months, and then suddenly I realized that I had just opened a yarn shop in Tampere. So yes, so basically no experience of owning a brick and mortar shop. But I thought that, well, how hard can it be? And I had a clear vision of the shop that I wanted to, I wanted to create a community. And I wanted the shop to look nice. I'm very interested in, fashion, interiors, everything like that. And yeah, then I opened the yarn shop, and through that yarn shop, I got to know all these fantastic people all over the world. And of course, I learned so much about the fiber, spinning, yarns, like everything that there is to learn in this knitting field. And I had the shop for a few years, and then the idea of Laine became, and here we are.
I mean, to me, the most beautiful thing about crafting community, not even just knitting, but like including all the crafts, is the fact that like the longer you do it, the more amazing people you meet, the more inspirations you get from them. And it just becomes like what people think, like when they imagine somebody crafting, they think it's like this lonely person sitting at home and doing something. And suddenly, like when we've met at Vogue Knitting, like there are thousands of people and like hundreds of vendors. And it's really amazing that it's a community, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it was very, I think, so this year, I think Vogue Knitting Live, I felt it was something really special. Like it still brings goosebumps to my skin, and I'm quite moved and touched when I think about the whole weekend in New York, because I noticed that, for instance, I had missed people a lot. I had missed these events, which of course they stopped during the pandemic. And yeah, like you said, there's something very special in this community. Like people often come to me, and I'm a business owner in this community, and knitters come to me, and they are really surprised that us business owners, we work with each other, not against each other. And I have made so many friends, and the most important people in my life are from the knitting field. That it is a very, very special thing to be part of knitting community.
So when you came up with the idea of a magazine, like, did you have a clear business plan? Did you know exactly what you wanna, what's
No,
going?
no. I had a clear vision of the magazine itself, that, okay, the magazine structure is this. I want it to include and this, and I want it to look like this. But other than that, no plans. So basically, we just wanted to create a magazine that we would like to read ourselves. And when we did the first issue, so it was me and it was Sini back then, just the two of us. So we still had our old like real jobs. I was working as a journalist at some other place at that time, and Sini had her other job, and we just started to create this magazine and spend weekends and vacations and all the time that we had, extra time, with the magazine. And like said, at that point, no savings, nothing. So basically I did one calculation. If we print this many magazines, how many magazines do we have to sell in order to cover the costs?
Okay.
And it didn't, I thought that, okay, this should be manageable. There are how many billion of people in the world, that we should be able to find this amount of people who share this passion for knitting and also like the aesthetics that we do. And yeah, that's how it started. And then I remember maybe the first print run for the magazine, it was something like 2,500, something like that. And it sold out in half an hour. And then we kept reprinting and reprinting and reprinting. And I think in the end, we printed something like 15,000 copies of the magazine. And then a few months later, when the second issue came out, so the situation was that good that we could, quit our proper jobs and just from then on, just concentrate on doing Laine.
And was it your decision from the beginning to do it in English?
Yes. That was like a very certain thing, because even though knitting is a big thing, it's a huge thing. We still figured out that, it's kind of a niche, and especially if we did it only in Finnish. So in Finland, in this country of 5 million people, there wouldn't be enough knitters, in order to keep our business going. But then once you set, you think that, okay, no boundaries, I'm gonna offer this magazine for the whole world. So of course it's then a lot easier to really find the people. And like said, through my yarn shop, I got to know so many fantastic and important people in the knitting business, who then, of course, they helped us a lot in, promoting us on social media, telling about us on social media. And back then, in like 7 years ago, I think it was it was at least a lot easier to gain popularity on Instagram, on social media, than it is now. It's much harder these days.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about those important people, because when people outside of the knitting community think about knitting, it would be a funny concept to them to think that there are knitting celebrities.
Yeah.
But for us, like, we come to Vogue Knitting to meet people, to see those like famous knitting personalities. How do you decide who gets the spotlight in your magazine?
Well, in the beginning, in those first few issues, of course, it was those people that were closest to me, like Jorge, Steven, and Helga Isager, and people that I knew from the shop. And nowadays, when I think of, for instance, interviews or articles in the magazine, so nowadays I think the focus is in a way a bit different, because we want to bring new things, that people who are knitters, then that they get to meet people or read about people that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily know. But when we, for instance, when we select the patterns for the magazine, so the designers for the magazine, so sometimes we ask directly from a designer that, okay, can you design something for this issue? And often these designers are those that we've worked with before or who are established designers. But then we have submission calls every year, and most of the designs that we pick come from those submission calls. And when we pick those designers, then it's not about how many followers they have on Instagram. It's all about the pattern. Does this pattern fit to this magazine, to this collection that we have in this specific magazine? And of course, when we pick the designers, so we have plenty of things to think about, like, there has to be, diversity has to be there in so many ways. And so like what I'm trying to say, I think, is that you don't by no means have to be famous in order to be in Laine.
Right.
Quite
And I love that because a lot of people that were guests of my channel were in your magazine. Like I saw an issue with Julie Needs in Paris and Rasto Shoe, like in this, it's really like people from all different places in the world and different aesthetics and different experiences. So I appreciate that about the magazine. How do you decide on like what kind of articles go into magazine?
Well, that is, sometimes a journalist from somewhere in the world suggests an article. Sometimes, for instance, a yarn shop owner might tell us something about, hey, I have this guy that, has sheep, a farm next to me, and he does this and this and this. And the ideas come from various places. And of course, we pick topics we pick topics from Finland as well, which are then easy for us. Nowadays, regarding the magazine articles, so our managing editor, Maija, is pretty much in charge of picking the articles. And now in Vogue Knitting Live, of course, I got plenty of ideas of what we can write about. And whenever that happens, so of course I'll pass these ideas to Maija, and we talk that, hey, I heard about this nice person that I think he or she would be fantastic to feature in the magazine.
When you started, it was the two of you, and now it's a team.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to learn how to delegate tasks to others, how to let others take control?
In a way, yeah. But as said, I've been in the magazine business for 25 years, and I used to run big magazines. So I have had, I've been in big groups working together, and I have learned how to delegate. But yes, it has been a learning curve now during the years of Laine, because in the beginning we did everything. Like Sini and I, we did everything. We took the photos, we wrote the articles, we layouted the magazine, we sold the advertisements, and we took care of the shipping and legal stuff and whatever. And now that the team is bigger and there are so many more publications going on, so yeah, I have had to learn how to let go, because otherwise, I just don't have the time anymore to do the things that I love the most. Because these days, I quite rarely have time to be actually like do the creative things. So it's more administrative stuff and, contracts and negotiations and big like strategic things going on. And I like them too, but they aren't the closest to my heart, those things. But on the other hand, I have kind of learned to accept that this is now, so kind of like I have evolved to this point, and this is my work now, and I can pass the knowledge to other people who are working here with me. And like I said, every now and then I can be very creative, and I still take photos sometimes, and I, of course, every now and then I design something. And as a creative director, I'm in charge of how our things look like. And but like I don't have time to write that much or be in the process of editing a book or stuff like that, which I miss. But this is how it is now, and I'm very happy that I'm very happy that we have the business, because it's the past years have been tough for every publisher.
Right. Well, let's talk about those books. When did you decide to start publishing books?
I think the decision was in 2019, because the first book came out in 2020, but this was during the pandemic. And the first book was 52 Weeks of Socks. And the concept of the book was very old, because I think it was 2011 when I published my crafting book in Finland. And I had the idea, I had this 52 weeks idea, which I couldn't complete back then. I had something like 40 in that book, 40 things, patterns or projects. But I had the idea of a book with 52 patterns, 52, one pattern for each week of the year. And of course, the time was absolutely it was horrible time, because it was the pandemic time. But in a way, people were at home. Everyone was knitting. Books played a huge role in people's lives. So the timing, in a way, was right. And it was a really good book, and the feedback was fantastic, and we sold so many of those books, and we still do. And the translation rights have been sold to, I don't know to how many countries, 20 something. So and that kind of sparked the idea of doing more books too. And here we are. Last year probably came out, we published something like maybe 10 or 12 books, and then sometimes we have these language versions of the books. Like sometimes we do a book both in Finnish and in English. Sometimes we do a book in English, French, and Japanese, and there are variations. But with this amount of people here at work, let's say something like 15 books a year might be the tops that we can do.
I mean, when I'm listening to you, it seems like everything you touch turns into an instant success. Is that true? Like, have there ever been disasters in the business?
If I think about Laine, and have we published a book that hasn't sold enough to cover its costs, for instance? So no, our books have been really successful, and I'm extremely happy about it. But that's we just have great authors. We have been able to work with so fantastic, like bunch of so fantastic designers, and they produce patterns, they produce things that knitters want to knit and things they want to learn. So I think, you know, it's because of our designers that we have been able to succeed.
Well, how do you find them? Because like I know so many of people who you published, and they are also from all over the world. They're not like there are Finnish designers, there is a designer that I know from Canada, there are European designers. How do you decide who to work with?
There are basically two ways. So sometimes if we like a designer or designer's work, so we ask, would you like to make a book with us? And sometimes then it's the designer who contacts us and, you know, proposes an idea. And we go through the idea and then we, you know, decide whether it is something that you know, fits into, well, our line of books, or whether it's something that we believe in. And yeah, those are basically the two ways that we work. And with 52-week series, they are kind of, we produce them ourselves in a way, you know, we have submission calls for the designs, but we produce the book here in a way under our own terms.
Well, you mentioned that you have two daughters that, and I've heard that you make a very good lasagna. How much time do you have for like for your family, for cooking, for ice hockey, all your hobbies, or actually knitting? Like how do you manage all of that?
A few months ago, so I got divorced, so my life changed a lot. And my children, my two girls, are with me every other week, and they are with their dad every other week. And when I have the girls with me, so I want to dedicate as much time to them as possible. And you know, we do basic things. They are, of course, at school. And once the school's over, then we go to see ice hockey matches with the little one, because she's very into ice hockey. They have their hobbies. So basically, I'm driving around the city and taking them to places. And then we watch, you know, TV together. Every now and then we travel somewhere. We go to the summer house, or you know, very normal things. And cooking, yes, I do very good lasagna, but I'm not like, I don't like cooking that much, but I do it because I have to. Apparently I'm okay-ish in cooking, but yeah, and I think I have had so many years in my life that I have given my everything to work, you know, before Laine as well. And I have had many burnouts, and I have always been quite open about my mental health, because I'm bipolar and I have ADHD. And it's very hard to find the balance between work and your personal life. But after so many struggles, and you know, sometimes I feel so bad that I can't work for, let's say, 6 months. I'm just, you know, back home sleeping. And but lately, let's say the past 2 years at least, they have taught me to live better and to listen more carefully to myself. And it hasn't been an easy thing to learn, but I try these days. So I don't work over 6 hours a day. So I try to be at the office, let's say 5-6 hours. But when I leave the office, I don't go and I don't check my emails. I just, you know, I know that I can't do that, because otherwise something bad would probably happen. So I have tried to prioritize myself and my children and my pets, and stick with the plan too, because it's something that I still notice that I need to remind myself quite often that, okay, you've been working this and this much, and like the past few weeks, I've noticed that I've been working in a way a lot. When I come to the office and I'm sitting here for 5-6 hours, I'm properly sitting and I'm doing, and I might be sending like 50 to 60 emails a day, and I don't go and eat, I don't take lunch breaks, nothing, I just work. And then when I go home, then sometimes I don't do anything. Like said, the past few weeks I have been a bit tired, and when I've gone back to work, I might have been, I have fallen asleep straight away and slept 2 hours, and then woke up at 7 and went straight back to bed. But yeah, as said, it's a learning curve, and I'm way better in handling my own life at the moment. And yeah, I have time for other things than work. So, spending time with my kids, going to ice hockey matches, sometimes 3 times a week if my favorite team plays 3 times a week here in Tampere, sometimes once a week, like tomorrow I'm going with my 10-year-old. And of course I knit. Maybe I think before I used to knit every day or daily, but nowadays sometimes there might be like a gap of 2 months that I don't knit at all, that I just don't have time or energy. And then suddenly I realized that, okay, this week I've been knitting 3 sweaters like I've done in the past week. I have actually knitted 3 sweaters.
Right. Well, when you knit something, when you pick a project to knit, do they come from your magazine? How do you get ideas of what you want to knit?
Not that much lately, because and there's one reason, because I'm trying to make my own knitting book, which is kind of like a retrospective of my knitting life. So it includes my old patterns and a few new ones, and so I rarely have time to knit other people's patterns. But I make time for those, because that is, in a way, in my opinion, that is the only way to learn about knitting too, that you get to know new techniques that you don't usually use when you are knitting projects for yourself. And I think if I have time, then I most definitely knit something out of our magazines, because they are the patterns that we have selected that they are very close to my heart as well. So yeah.
What are you most excited about this year? What's coming that people should know? Is there like any secrets you can share with us?
No secrets as such. I think I'm most excited about, as said before, about this community and the chance to get back to world and see knitting friends and knitting people. So this autumn will be my first time in Rhinebeck. I'm really excited about going there, and I'm going to Japan later this year, and a lot of work related traveling ahead. And then when I think about our publications, so this year, I don't know, it's very hard to pick one, because they all have something that inspires me and inspires the whole gang here. I'm quite excited about the Knitted Kalevala. So the first Knitted Kalevala by Jenna Kostet came out 2 years ago. No, last year. No, 2 years. Well,
Somewhere there.
somewhere here. Yeah. So she's currently making another one. And we are taking the photos in April, and the book is then going to be released in August. So that is one thing that I'm really excited about, because Jenna's work is based on the Finnish national epic. And when the first book came out, and I remember I was in Canada back then, you know, traveling for work, and I was really surprised because I met so many Canadians that were like, "Oh, I have read your national epic," and I'm like, "What? I haven't read that. Like, I have read parts of here and there." And what struck me was that people or knitters nowadays, it's not just the patterns. They long for stories as well. And yeah, very many exciting projects ahead. And there is one secret, and it's coming out in 25. I can't yet talk about that one, but it's huge and it's massive, and the whole concept of the book drives me in a way nuts because I'm so excited about it. But I'm hoping to be able to tell more about it very soon, as everything will be cleared. But exciting things, yeah.
I hope to have you back on my channel with some updates as you coming up with all these exciting new books out there.
I would love to. So only like this year only, I think there will be, well, starting from now, I think we are still going to publish something like 10 books. So autumn and the end of the year are going to be very, very busy when it comes to books. And then 2025, so almost all of the books that are coming out in 25 are in the making at the moment, or I'm finalizing the publishing agreements. And we are already, some of the books that are going to be out in 26, some of them are already in the making. So these are, of course, very long projects. And sometimes it's quite hard to, wait, when can I tell about this? But one thing I can tell, because I'm very, very, very excited, because later this year, and about this we have already mentioned on social media, but we are going to publish Tomomi Mimura, so a Japanese embroidery artist. We are going to publish her book about sort of three-dimensional embroidered animals. And I met Tomomi last autumn in Japan, and we talked about the book, and we made the contract, and it's coming to life soon. We are starting to photograph the book shortly and finalize the photo shoot in the early June. And I don't know, just today I received an email from Tomomi, and she sent me a few photos of the embroidered animals, and she also sent me a video of her work. And I don't know, there's something very, very magical about those embroidered animals. So they bring such joy to me, and I know that they bring such joy to people like all around the world, that I just can't wait to share that feeling with the knitters later this year.
Well, I want to thank you for agreeing, for finding time in your busy schedule to be a guest of my channel. I can't wait to see you and Ryan back. It's going to be amazing, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing all your future publications. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
John. Thank you for being my
Thank
guest.
you. Thank you. This was really nice.